Greetings everyone, and welcome to this tutorial video in which I'll do my best to explain what's entailed and how you can approach the first part of the proficiency writing paper, otherwise known as the essay. This part of the paper, unlike part 2, is obligatory, compulsory, mandatory. That is, you have one option and you have no other choice. In part 2 of the paper, you're given some options. Okay, but speaking of options, why have I chosen to say the same thing in 3 different ways? Obligatory, compulsory, mandatory. Well, essentially, this is one of the keys to doing well on this part of the paper, that is, using synonyms and a wide range of vocabulary to demonstrate your language prowess. Let's take a look. Okay, so what it entails, if we just look at it as a whole, is the reading of 2 different short extracts. Sometimes these extracts complement each other and sort of say the same thing. At other times, they will be contrasting with different opinions or ideas expressed. Essentially, your job as the writer is to read the 2 texts and then write an essay of approximately 260 words, which summarizes, evaluates the key points from both the texts, and then you're meant to use your own words and include your own ideas in your answer. So if we look behind the scenes a bit, what is Cambridge testing here? Well, obviously reading comprehension, an ability to summarize and paraphrase and identify key points in a text. However, in terms of the output, Cambridge is looking at your ability as a writer of English to use your own words to describe and further build on what you've read. Okay, the first extract reads, "Teenagers as consumers. It is virtually impossible to escape the influence of the media these days, and particularly if you are a teenager with access not just to television and radio, but also the internet at all times of the day and night. Advertisers look upon teenagers as a blank canvas whose tastes and needs are there to be molded by them through their advertisements. Advertisers and marketing people have become adept at reading the teenage mind, making young people believe that they need to own certain items in order to be accepted by their peer group or simply to look cool." So if we were to pick out the main ideas in this short text, well, essentially, to summarize, the text puts forth the idea that teenagers are molded, influenced greatly by advertising and the media, and that those who create advertising and marketing have become adept, have become extremely skilled at understanding and predicting the teenage mind, how young people think, and finding ways to manipulate that to their own profit. Okay, now the second text reads, "Teenagers, a driving force." Advertising responds to young people's delight in what is new by developing sophisticated and innovative, often humorous advertisements, which can be seen on television and cinema screens and on billboards around our towns and cities. The tastes of this generation of young people have had an impact on advertisers worldwide. However, it is the energy of the young above all that has influenced the world of marketing and has kept it on its toes, pushing the creative boundaries to become almost an art form. That is the power of young people. So in essence, this text is saying something quite antithetical, quite the opposite to what this text claims. Indeed, this text actually puts forth the idea that it is the young people who have the power and manipulate the advertisers, or manipulate may be too strong a word, the young people who drive and create the paradigms by which advertisers create their material in response. So indeed, it's the young people and their own creativity and their ever-changing sort of needs and interests that actually have an impact on the world of marketing and keep it on its toes, keep it alive, and keep driving it forward. All right, so this is our task. We're meant to summarize each, and again, using one's own words, so not lifting from the text. Use your own words. So instead of saying molded by or writing molded by, one could, write something like influenced and manipulated by or shaped by. To become adept at something, to become highly skilled. Humorous advertisements, funny ads. The tastes, the preferences have had, let's say, an impact on global, advertising. Okay, we've got the idea. Now, let's take a look at a successful example. This is taken from the Cambridge Handbook itself. Whoops. And this is an example of someone who scored 20 points out of a possible 20. So that's quite impressive. This would be then considered a 10 or 100%. Because to revise something I talked about in a different video, your writing is being assessed upon 4 different scales. Content, do you answer the question? Communicative achievement, do you, the author, use the right sort of language, the right sort of tone of voice to answer the question? Is your writing logical and well organized? Do you use cohesive devices, linking words and structures? And language itself, is the English, both grammar and vocabulary, the sentence structure accurate, but also at the level which is considered to be appropriate on a proficiency level test? Well, okay, so we know this person got 20 out of 20. Let's take a look. Concern is often expressed about the negative effects that television can have on young people. As far as I'm concerned, the most serious damage that occurs is a result of the constant commercial pressures that vulnerable youngsters are exposed to. Advertisements every 10 minutes or so as children and teenagers watch their favorite programs are likely to lead them to believe that possessing the latest gadget or item of clothing will bring them happiness and respect from others. To my mind, the result of this can only be a generation whose values are too materialistic for their own ultimate contentment. This is not to say that all advertisements are lacking in quality. It is not unreasonable, in fact, to consider them as an art form, as many are imaginative and make original use of language, music, and camera work. They are indeed often produced by talented young people who find them an appropriate focus for their own creativity. In my opinion, the answer lies in education. Advertisements are not harmful per se. It is just that we all need to know how to use them. We should take the information that we need from them, but we should be aware of the techniques that their makers use with the hope of influencing us to buy things we do not really have any need of. Young people should be taught not only to appreciate the artistic qualities of adverts, but also to recognize the tricks that are being employed. Greater sophistication should lead to less vulnerability. So there are 4 paragraphs, and the writer brings up the general introduction to the overarching idea. Although I would put forth that it's not just television. The original question actually brings out more the influence of media. Okay, and commercial pressure. So this is a bit of an intro to the topic. The first small paragraph here outlines the points of the first text. in that, children are vulnerable and thus easily manipulated by advertising. This sort of summarizes the second text. Although I think one small point is missing, and that point is that it's young people who actually drive the creative force within advertising and not the other way around. However, it is still an accurate, on the whole, summary of the second text. And then in this portion, the author has put forth their own ideas. Well, what are Cambridge's comments here? What are the examiner comments? Okay, in terms of answering the question, well, 5 points out of 5. The target reader is fully informed and all content is relevant to the task. Fair enough. Again, I might give this 4 out of 5 in that I believe that some key elements are missing, as I mentioned here, and the fact that it's more overarching media that causes constant commercial pressure and perhaps damage, not just television. But okay, still, fair enough. 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, still a good mark. Communicative achievement. Well, the author demonstrates complete command of the conventions of the essay, communicates complex ideas in an effective and convincing way, holding the target reader's attention with ease, fulfilling all communicative purposes. Well, what do they mean by this? Essentially, the tone of voice here is academic enough, neutral enough. Neutral, that's a good question. Let's take a look at the original sample question. Well, yeah, this is sort of neutral to academic in tone. That is the original. It's not conversational, colloquial, slang. It is definitely a neutral to formal academic tone. Thus, in terms of communication and tone of voice, well, this author, this candidate, has well matched the original tone while also effectively paraphrasing and using their own words. So something like, as far as I am concerned, this is an appropriate academic means of putting forth one's opinion. Okay, let's take a look at the organization. The text is organized impressively and coherently, using a wide range of cohesive devices and organizational patterns with complete flexibility. So, as far as I'm concerned, to my mind, this is not to say that. In fact, they are indeed. The answer lies in, these are all high-level linking devices. Paragraph divisions clearly support the internal organization of the argument, which integrates evaluation of key points and the writer's own views subtly and fluently. So again, in terms of organization, it reads logically. A bit of introduction to the issue or the situation. Key points summarized, text by text. And then one's own opinion. This is a very sort of fluent and logical approach. And language itself, well, the author uses a wide range of vocabulary, including less common lexis, that is, less common vocabulary. And they do this with fluency, precision, sophistication, and style. For example, phrases such as constant commercial pressures, materialistic, ultimate contentment, not harmful per se, greater sophistication, and less vulnerability. Again, this is less common vocabulary that one is expecting to see on a proficiency level writing exam. And additionally, again, 5 out of 5 full points, the use of grammar is sophisticated, fully controlled, and completely natural. Well, in fact, I might almost guess that perhaps this was a native speaker who wrote it, or indeed, if non-native, this person's writing capability is quite high level. There doesn't appear to be a single mistake grammatically. There are no spelling errors. One other aspect that we look at, especially in regards to organization, is sentence structure. In Dutch, we'd refer to that as zinsopbouw. So we see a varied range of sentence structure, including here, okay, we have basically two different elements to this sentence. As far as I'm concerned, this is our dependent clause with a comma, nicely punctuated. And then the most serious damage that occurs as a result of the constant commercial pressures that vulnerable youngsters are exposed to. Here we have an independent clause, which is well written and reads fluently. And again, you can see that sentence structure is quite varied. Here the author has used a semicolon. Advertisements are not harmful per se. Now, this is a complete thought. It's an independent clause. It is just that we all need to know how to use them. This is also an independent clause, but our semicolon actually connects these two as they are related and sort of dependent upon each other. All right. Hopefully, this walkthrough has helped to explain a bit more as to what is a successful attempt at part 1 of the CPE writing. Good luck out there. Thanks for watching.